Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or rather, good day to all of you. This is Chris, your host, speaking for the podcast Crypto Today and Tomorrow. This is episode 2. We would like to, first of all, thank you for those who have already seen episode 1. We got some really good feedback, and we'd like to thank you for that. This time, we are tackling episode 2. And of course, we've got another person to introduce you to. So, Jonathan, welcome to the podcast, first and foremost.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for the introduction.
All right, great. So Jonathan, just to put everybody into perspective, is also another member from the Instacoins team. So at this stage, as you have realized, after we introduced Andrew last week, we are introducing where last episode rather, we are introducing another member from Instacoins. So in fact, Jonathan covers the position of a group head of payments, risk and internal controls. What is interesting though is that Jonathan actually started off as a software engineer. So it's going to be really interesting to see, how did a person from a software engineer end up in crypto, and this is what is actually fascinating about crypto, because we've seen many people in different environments in different industries that are coming into crypto. Even in my case, I was in travel and tourism for 17 years, and here I am doing a podcast related to crypto. So worlds pretty much are starting to converge towards this industry. So it would be very interesting to of course hear an introduction about you, and how did this change happen to you?
Thank you, Chris. It's a very interesting question, and I think I would start by saying that sort of crypto as a word is a very vast subject, right? So obviously, many people look at it from a trading point of view. Others look at it from a solution point of view. Others look at it from a real world application point of view. So it's all really intertwined. So it's like saying sort of like finance and this and this. So there are different aspects on how to look at it, and in fact, one sentence that caught my attention a few days ago, I believe it was by the CEO of Binance, said we went from a situation where we went from early adopters to the early majority, because there are more institutions coming up, there are more basically financial organizations getting into more public people coming into play, more countries looking at it from a legal tender, etc. But let's say to answer your question from the beginnings, let's say I am a software engineer by profession. So let's say my degrees were in software engineering. I continued basically focusing on meeting facilitation, on how to build software properly. And we always had this, let's say, concept when we're building software is, you have people that need to build the right software, and then you have people that need to build it right, which means that the most important thing is you can build the most interesting piece of software or technology, but if it's not adopted, if no one needs it, if there's no use for it, then basically it's useless. It's not meeting a business need or a personal need, etc. So first, we needed to understand basically the types of software that people need, and then obviously you engineer it properly. You engineer it for scale, for security, for a number of different things. And let's say my career was always building solutions. So I never wanted to build something just for the sake of building it. I wanted to make sure that basically you're meeting a need. In the same way that an architect most definitely can build any house he wants with a builder and his construction. But why? If no one wanted that house or that museum or whatever, it would be sort of wasted. So it's always like how to let's say meet those requirements in the middle. So when I started in software, I was in a number of different, let's say, industries. Like my companies were in the public sector. We worked in oil and gas. We worked in gaming, etc. And interestingly, in every single industry I worked in when I was building solutions, the common denominator was always payments. We wanted the merchant wanted to take payments. We needed to accept it. We needed to look at rules, regulations, movements of money, and even though, let's say, the compliance industry at the time was still in its infancy, there were still obviously, rules, regulations, and controls. In the last 10 years, we've seen a lot more of that, even outside the crypto space. So basically, let's say, started taking a very deep interest in payments in around 2011, I would say. So I was building everything with my teams, from card acquiring to payment gateways to credit card issuing to dynamic currency conversions. You're building all these different payment rails to meet a need. Every company needed his own needs. So in travel, you had like this particular needs, and this one needed refunds, and let's say the sporting events need a different type of, let's say, journey. And then crypto started coming into play, which basically, I would say that, let's say, crypto money is to blockchain in the sense that like a web internet, right? So one can't exist sort of without the other. Like the internet can exist, but a website can't exist without the internet. And crypto, technically, it's just the adoption of the technology of blockchain, but being put to use for financial reasons, for basically tokens or different coins, etc. So, but blockchain as a technology is already being adopted by a number of different institutions, not only for financial basically transactions, being used for auditing and art and sports and crew management. And I've seen a really interesting project lately with regards to sea pollution, basically on how to clean it up. And so anyway, so like the concept of, let's say, the blockchain area, the blockchain, let's say, industry, really caught my attention. So yes, of course, because my background was in payments, we started adopting that blockchain into the sector, basically, mainly for payment companies to accept crypto, to pay out in different types of currencies, and to give the flexibility of merchants to basically operate that way. But as an industry, it is an amazing industry, and it goes hand in hand with a number of other things. Like any new technology, until it is understood, until it is fully, let's say, comprehended, there's going to be abuse always. You know, so obviously, that's why some people maybe have a bit of a still a negative, let's say, vision on the whole crypto scene. Because, and I don't blame them, because people unfortunately do take advantage of these situations. So as time went by, we started seeing more regulation come into the industry, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like one of my other enterprises, right, on the compliance side, specifically is there to educate people on how to trade properly, on how to identify yourself to the network. Because as with anything else, Kris, you only hide your hand if you are doing something wrong, or if you have something basically that you're not proud of or something like that. I have nothing to hide, for example, with a bank. So I would give them my KYC. I would tell them where the money came from, where it's going, what it's going to be used for. I don't have a problem answering these type of questions. So yes, there is a level of, let's say, anonymity. But from my experience, and if you look at the technology properly, actually crypto, if you had to look at the crypto financial world, it is more of an audited world than cash. You
Yes,
can come
absolutely.
and buy something with cash, and you might tell me my father
No
gave it to me.
trail
Brilliant.
whatsoever.
Okay.
Yep.
All I can tell you is maybe, which jurisdiction printed it. Maybe a Delarue system or something like that. With crypto, at the very least, I can go to inception of where that coin was created. Now, would I necessarily know who owned that wallet? Maybe not. But we are still in a phase where the two realms of, let's say, finance, both fiat and crypto, are still coexisting quite nicely, which means that at some point, even when people are making money in crypto, at some point they will probably want to exit that sort of realm and maybe use it in real life applications for whatever. So at some point, there's going to be that switch going from a crypto exchange to a bank or to a card or to a processor or whatever. And most probably, there will be KYC, let's say, places along the way where you'd need to identify those, let's say, things. So all in all, I actually, and I've spoken to many peers in this, and notaries and legal people, etc. All in all, I think with good education, because that is where it all stems from, with good education, people will understand that this digital money era is the way to go, basically. It's just obviously the adoption takes time, like with everything else. But I'll stop a bit because I don't want to hijack your
No, no, no. As
podcast.
if
So
I
I'll
mean,
stop and
let's
listen.
be honest. I mean, these podcasts at the end of the day are there to allow guests to explain their point of views, their opinions, which everybody has opinions. Everybody shares opinions, also. And it is always interesting, especially for those who are following us and who are interested in getting to know a bit more about this world, because of course let's not forget that there are those who are, who have been involved in the world for quite a while, and those who are still rather new to it. So it is good to hear certain aspects of it. So don't worry, anything that you need to let loose is all, it is all good, it's all content, so don't worry whatsoever. No, but what is curious, I mean, even before you mentioned the need for payments. I remember even when I used to be when I worked in travel, I remember that although we used to target an older generation because it was related to group travel, and group travel is generally targeted towards an older generation of people, we were still looking to find, payment solutions online, because there are some people who would rather prefer getting it done from home than, driving towards the office, getting things done face to face, or waiting in a queue, especially if it's summertime and things get busy. So, of course, yes, the needs for this payment solution in every industry, I believe, is always present. But it is very interesting to
Hmm.
see how things evolved, and the way how, all industries are, as I mentioned before, are converging towards this world. I find that personally very fascinating, both from a payments perspective and also from a career perspective. How many people, can find opportunities within this world, because everybody's knowledge in different industries can be good, and can be very beneficial for getting into the crypto world and seeing things from a different perspective, which many times is not is an issue. But I think that when you are for a long time within an industry, sometimes you tend to close your blinkers, if you want to put it that way, and it is very hard to think outside the box. So it is good that the industry is bringing people in from other industries, because it helps with people thinking horizontally. So that, I believe, is a very good thing. Um, so
One of the interesting things is like, even for example, like adoption, like what we see in the crypto space, even outside the payments thing is, I think the barrier to entrepreneurship has been lowered. So more people are looking at this, not only, I'm going to go into crypto to make money. No, I can build stuff with this. I can learn myself. YouTube, for example, is the biggest free university you can find. Yes, of course, you'd need to filter out all the videos that maybe are not of good quality or whatever, but people that want to learn have no excuse not to learn. And if they want to, let's say, adopt certain technologies, etc., the barrier of entry to get into this space has been lowered so much that one of the reasons I enjoy going to most of the conferences, blockchain related, let's not even call it crypto, let's call it blockchain, let's call it Web3, like that whole technology is because you're meeting so many people with bright minds, good ideas. Yes, some are copying it, some are trying to perfect something, but there are so many people, so much talent is being put in here that, of course, there's always going to be, let's say, the financial aspect, but there are so many new applications coming up in this technology that it's really fascinating to see this whole thing grow. So when, for example, I meet people all the time, right? And they tell you, what do you think of Bitcoin? I tell them, hey, listen, the same thing I think of euro. It's a currency, It can go up, it can go down. Bitcoin is influenced by this, euro is influenced by its politics. Like, it's a currency. Like, what do I know? I don't know if it's gonna go up, it's gonna go down. Like, I don't have the power, I don't have foresight, I don't, there are so many different aspects of it. And they tell me, okay, like, but I want to invest 20,000 or 10,000 or 500 in crypto, for example. Like, which crypto should I buy? I tell them the very first thing you have to do with your money is invest in your education. Understand the area, understand the concept of what it is. And then, by all means, go into it. Now, if you had to ask me, but this is definitely, it's an opinion. It's not necessarily a science or backed by anything. It's just my opinion. If people want to invest in crypto, I look at Bitcoin as a storage of value. Yes, it might go up, but it's a storage of value. If people are looking at trading, they want to do a quick buck, they want to risk it, whatever, that go into other projects, new blockchains, meme coins, or whatever it is like. But again, there's so much research that has to be done that, that sort of, you have to take that responsibility on yourself. But out of everything that's happening in this space, Bitcoin was the first mover. It was, let's say, the king of coins. And I'm sure that there are other coins maybe that will give people better returns, whatnot. But as a storage of value, as a safe storage of value, I look at that as being sort of the number one in the list. But most definitely, like people need to understand the education around it. For example, if I'm building an application where I want to trade, I want people to earn coins, spend coins, pay gas, pay transaction fees, whatever, I would not build that on a blockchain network. Why? Because yes, there are improvements, but I still don't believe that it is, let's say, as scalable as it was. There are many new layer 2, layer 3, let's say, blockchain, even other layer ones, which have much higher, let's say, transactional capacity, velocities, and whatnot. So, depending on what you want to do with your technology, there are other blockchains, other technologies that might be better suited. But as a storage of value, I personally look at Bitcoin as being basically that number one. But if I had to build a Web3 based solution nowadays, I'd consider Polygon, I'd consider Solana, I'd consider Venom, I'd consider like one of the newer ones coming up just because they have better technology and the adoption eventually will kick in. But that's why it's so interesting because you can look at crypto from so many different angles. Like if you're a person like me, like I never stop learning. If I wake up one day and arrogantly I say, you know what, I know enough about the crypto space, it's fine. That is a very, like, in my opinion, a very ignorant and arrogant statement to make because so much is happening. So many bright minds are putting things into this industry that it's even fascinating learning about it. Sometimes it's too much. Sometimes, even for me, there are areas where I need to read it twice, three times to understand it because even the level of cryptography that goes in it, the different levels of technology coming in, some new algorithms that are being tested. And then you're trying to see the world catching up. So, for example, in the area of finance, right? Because, for example, Instacoins focuses a lot on obviously on the financial impact of crypto, so where people can come in, buy, and whatnot. But even, for example, in things like this, let's say in the past, financial institutions or exchanges or whatever, they all have to go through security audits, penetration testing. Like there are a number of different things, operational audits, etc. So even those type of professionals, they have to learn because they are trying to keep up with an industry which is moving so fast. You know, in the past, an auditor would come and look at all your environment and say, "Hey, if you want the certificate, I need to ask you these 25 questions. I need to do a tick next to each one. I don't accept excuses because that is the procedure." But the technology is moving so fast that sometimes the questions are not aligned with how fast we went. So even their industry is continuously playing catch up to try and keep it all the time, with checks and balances. It's lovely.
No, the evolution is quite interesting, and again, it is an extremely fast-paced environment, which I think you mentioned before that if you wake up in the morning and you decide that you know enough about Bitcoin, that or about crypto, that in itself is not a good thing. And in fact, I mean, one of my own personal slogans is that I continue to live if I continue to learn. I mean, there is no for me, life ends when you stop learning because there is always that sparkle of learning something new, and that is what is interesting about crypto, is that practically every day there is something new going on. I mean, and mentioning this also, if we relate to from the last episode that we recorded till today, in the meantime, there was the Bitcoin halving, there was the Ethereum ETFs which got approved. So this was again a huge step forward again for the crypto. So it's
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
always something going on. Now, from your perspective, because obviously you were mentioning Bitcoin as a place where to store value, which I agree, because I mean at the end of the day we're seeing more expenditure perhaps towards Ethereum, USDC, USDT, where those are currently being used much more, whereas Bitcoin is more of a that people kind of keeping their funds over there and then eventually being used. From your experience, how do you see this change? And obviously, considering
Hmm.
the halving and also the ETFs getting approved also for Ethereum, what are you foreseeing? Even though you mentioned before, of course, we don't have the foresight, but we all have
Hmm.
opinions. There are
Hmm.
trends. We can follow trends. I mean, if we look at when Bitcoin went through
Agreed.
their own ETF's
Agreed.
approval, we can supposedly predict some sort of trend towards Ethereum, which may be similar to what Bitcoin had, because sometimes there can be a correlation between them.
Most definitely. So very good question, and I think the timing also makes sense. We've seen it time and time again where people basically launch a project, an amazing project, too much ahead of its time, and it falls flat on itself because the world has not yet got to that stage where it is ready to embrace it, whether it's ready to take it on. So the halving is something which is known, right? So for the last few years and for the foreseeable future, basically, there are a number of halvings that basically already took place and others that are coming. So these are things that people sort of can look at. People already, let's say, price it in, people speculate about it, it moves the markets. You obviously have certain influential people that, let's say, are bigger market movers than others. And let's not kid ourselves just yet. There are companies in the world that if they really want, it's not going to happen, I believe. But if they really want and they want to put the resources together, we're not even talking that much. You get two, three big companies, bigger whatever, they can literally buy up the whole supply that there is right now. you know so we're still at such an infant level of this market that the explosive factor is happening. It's getting there. It's obvious. It's going in that direction. And normally when the king moves, everything else gets pulled up with it if they are decent projects, right? So at the same way, then what are we seeing? So the halving is the halving, but when we see the FTs, now we're seeing basically reputable financial institutions, which are, let's say, global, which have a lot of amassing, which have funds, which have treasury, which have a lot of, let's say, these solid backgrounds behind them. Once they are coming into this industry, once they are pushing out these products to the public, once they are allowing other people, let's say, to get in there, to be participant in it, then it's obvious that basically, again, we moved from early adopter to early majority. It's getting there. And when you're in a situation where you're at your barber, you're at the supermarket, you're wherever, and everybody says, what do you think of this? What do you think of the price? I'm going to go and buy some Bitcoin. I'm going to buy this. So, yes, it is a bubble, because people get excited, they want to make money quick, but slowly, slowly, because they've seen the news, they've seen exchanges going up and down, they've seen basically influential people that say half a sentence moves the price big time, a lot of volatility. People make money, people don't make money. So, but they've seen it. So now it's not anymore, oh my God, like what is happening?
In
Now
fact,
they
I mean, if
know
I
that
can
it can
just
happen.
poke a little note about this, it was quite curious how, in fact, there were a couple of influencers
Hmm.
on a particular social media where they predicted, that the approval for the ETFs was at 25% or 20%, and one fine day they
Hmm.
wrote that, listen, it seems like there's a 75% probability that's going to be approved, and as soon as they mentioned that, the price for Ethereum just skyrocketed. So it is really interesting how just a couple of people putting out a note, putting up a tweet, and that's all it takes for the price to get affected, which is, it's
Uh,
really
eh,
cool, but it's scary at the same time of the potential and the strength that people have with just voicing an opinion.
it's such a fine line. I mean, Chris, let's face it. I am no one, right? If I go online and I say this is what I think, I am like everybody else, blah blah blah. But you know, sort of with great power comes great responsibility, type of thing. But at the same time, we need to look at it from a very fair point of view, because there's a very thin line between freedom of speech. I can go online, say whatever I want, but freedom of speech where I have such a big, let's say, voice, such a lot of weight, then technically I am swaying the market where I want it. Now, whether I am making money from it, whether I'm making it to gain personal gains, that obviously I can't comment on that and whatever. But I can't go to people and say, it's not fair. You can't say these things because if you say it, you're going to change the price. But, like freedom of speech is freedom of speech. Like you
Yes.
have it, I have it, everybody has it. So the thing is, like in their position, they are seeing things. Maybe they're connected with other, let's say, things that, let's say, do move the markets, but that is the reality. I do not have, let's say, the resources to go and buy up a huge amount of, let's say, thing. But if we have to take, for example, one of the largest Bitcoin wallet holders in the world, right? Um, Realistically, let's face it, if he wakes up one morning and say, I want to dump it, you know, I spoke with our investors, shareholders, whatever, we're changing direction, whatever, we're going to dump this. Obviously, those things crash markets, you know? So that is why I believe a lot in, let's say, monitoring and regulation, etc. I'm not against it. Like I don't like the concept of a police state, but most of the time, politicians, governments, etc., at the very root of it, like these type of controls are there to protect the people. They protect the movement. They're protecting basically, you have families. They worked all their lives. They're saving something, blah blah. They're trying to protect that your investment doesn't become zilch, basically. So, of course, there is a fine line for it, but yes, we are still in this type of market where little sentences by certain jurisdictions or authorities or influential people can have big impacts. But that, again, now we're talking crypto pricing, has nothing to do with the technology.
Of
This
course,
is
of course.
purely speculative on the pricing. And as you well said, someone comes and says, hey, 70% chance that the ETFs are going to be approved. Oh, brilliant. Price goes up, which shows you that it is so speculative. In the same way, and I'm inventing, obviously, now imagine somebody from the European Union comes and says, hey, we believe that there is a 70% chance that the euro region is going to disseminate, basically. So the euro currency will be no more and everybody goes back to his own currency, for example. Imagine the ripple effect that would have on the euro, even though it's just speculation. But if I say it, it's one thing. If you have people, let's say, in power in politics that say it, then obviously there is a bit more credibility there. But so these things, you can't really control them at all,
Of
pretty
course,
much.
of course.
You have to ride the wave like everyone is.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Going back to well, let's say the initial stage of the episode, especially related to your career,
Hmm.
because I'm more interested, or rather, um, uh, I find this to be a very interesting area because, as mentioned before,
Hmm.
we know how many people are interested in crypto. We know how many people feel that they are, since they are not involved in crypto, that it is difficult for them to get into the world. But of course, you and me are proof that we came from different sectors, and yet here we are. So, how did the change occur, or rather, when you started working on the technology when you were younger, would you have ever thought that technology would have gotten to this point and that it would have shifted your career, so to say?
Hmm. Again, very good question. So let's look at sort of the definition. So technically, crypto is sort of a version of digital money. Now, we are lucky that sort of in our career, in our time, we've been working with digital money since Kingdom Come. So we're taking credit card payments, we're doing bank transfers with Swift, with SEPA. So technically, from that aspect, like our systems or things that we've built, things that I've studied, let's say for donkey years now, we're always talking digital money. But the only difference is that you have certain money which is backed by a Federal Reserve, certain money which is backed by the gold system, certain money which is backed by cash reserves, certain money which is backed by some, let's say, country asset, etc. But they're all different, let's say, monetary systems which have a digital value. They are on computers worldwide in different banking systems, etc. And the systems that we build are moving them around. You know, so the concept of digital money is definitely not a new one. The difference being now that sort of the, let's say, the digital money that we're talking about, or let's say cryptocurrencies, different CBDCs coming out, let's say from different central banks, which are, let's say, playing or experimenting with that thing, is technically still a concept of digital money, but instead of passing on these virtual payment rails, it's passing on a different payment rail which does not have as many roadblocks or as many stoppages or as many, let's say, corresponding partners along the way chipping in, that makes the whole monetary system instant, pretty much, and very verifiable. So there is no way that I can, for example, like let's take two merchants transacting together. You send him an invoice, guy doesn't have money to pay you. He'll tell you, yes, I sent it. I sent you a check in the post. Maybe it got lost. I sent a transfer. Maybe it's stuck at the bank. There's a million different excuses that you can do to just delay the whole process. So annoying, right? In crypto, it doesn't work like that. If I'm telling you, Kris, you owe me whatever, 50 Ethereum, whatever, 50 USDT. When you send me the transaction hash, full stop. That's all I need. All I need is that transaction. And then no one's going to tell me it's stuck at the bank, it's stuck here. It's like, okay, you did it. There's nothing. Now, is it your wallet? Is it of the company? Is it of your wife? Is it of your family? It doesn't make a difference because I am dealing with you. And I know that this money has transacted, full stop. It's immutable. Every time, the longer a transaction takes on that network, the more people, the more systems are telling me, yes, it happened, and it is immutable. That's it. It's there. So why I like sort of this let's say technology is it gives more verifiable, auditable transactions. Now, so when I look at my career, I think in hindsight it was the natural progression of where my career had to go. In fact, like my two pinnacles of let's say my career are on the finance side and on the compliance side, and basically there are normally two systems which go hand in hand and applied to everything. So yes, I do believe it was a natural progression. What I didn't have most definitely is the foresight of what concept that new monetary system is going to have. So I've been playing with, let's say, blockchain and crypto and mining, etc. since about 2012. It was like a geek thing to do. You have your laptop, put let's say a graphics card, started mining, laptop broke because the graphics card is getting too hot. Tried something else, let it go for a few months because in my mind it wasn't, let's say, something, and I didn't take it super seriously, so kept going with my career. Came back to it a few years later. I saw that it started trading, so played around a bit with trading, left it again, came back in 2016, 17. So there was this sort of like relationship with blockchain since, I'm not going to tell you since inception, but since around 2012, 2013.
Which is
So
quite the
I've
beginning
seen the
anyway.
evolution
Yeah.
by the beginning anyway, and we're not talking trading here. We're not talking making money with BTC. Of course, I smack myself in the face every day that I should have taken it more seriously at the time. But like in hindsight, everybody's a genius.
Yeah.
Like I can look at my let's say things now, and maybe there's a new blockchain that I don't take seriously, and in 10 years we'll basically flip the BTC completely. But in hindsight, things are different. So, but I do like the progression. I do see how I am here. Like I don't wake up one morning and say, "My God, how on earth did I get myself in this industry?" Like, if I backtrack the steps, it starts to make sense. If you take snippets, you'd say, like, okay, no, I don't know. But if you follow like the route, it does make sense. Like, and like with travel, like for example, in your situation, you are here because of a number of things, because you've seen that there is the opportunity, you've seen that there is a use in that industry, so there's a lot of things which are intertwined because it's a monetary system, right? At the end of the day, if you look at that aspect.
Yes. No, but at the same time, I mean, I joke with myself and with friends occasionally because yes, I mean, it's been 3 years now that I've been in this industry, and although I'm a person that adapts really quickly, I learn really quickly, and I can um, put forward what I learned rather quickly. I would have never thought when I was in the tourism industry that I would end up within this kind of industry. So I used to follow it. Yes, I used to read about it. I used to try things out, but I never thought that I would get into it the way how I got to it. Now. But
Fair, fair, fair.
I find that still very interesting because again, it just goes to show how much this industry is open to different people, different ways of thinking. It allows for creativity. It allows for lots of people to come together. I mean, in many other industries,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
whether it is travel and tourism, because let's face it, unless you are in sales and you're selling a product which is ready, you need to have a certain know-how as regards to the GDS systems, which are related to travel, in order to sell a product.
Hmm.
The travel industry needs certain expertise within that area. I'm not saying crypto doesn't, because crypto needs
Hmm.
a lot of expertise, but every industry tends to have very closely knit requirements that if you don't have
A
them, you're
domain
going,
knowledge, a particular
yes,
domain
exactly.
knowledge.
Yes, which if you don't have them, you're going to struggle to get into that industry. Whereas crypto
Hmm.
has this
Hmm.
open door attitude that, you're welcome to join. There's a lot to learn, but you can adopt, adapt, and improve. I like to say, there's a lot of things to adopt and adapt, and then improve it and find ways how to
Hmm.
use it. And that, I think, is one of the most fascinating things within this industry. Which, again, I mean, I haven't really gone through so many industries in my life, but you study, you have friends are in different industries, and when you study and put things together, this is the versatility of crypto, which is really cool.
And to be honest, there are so many different projects out there, even in Web3 and blockchain. To be honest, that was one of the things that attracted me, let's say, to the Instacoins offering, right, at its inception, because what it's trying to do, for example, is basically lower the barrier of entry for, let's say, the people that want to get into the game. They want to at least be part of it, and removing the whole, let's say, complexity of, oh, I don't know what a wallet is, I don't know how to do it, but is it safe? And I don't know hardware wallets, and do I do it on my phone? But I have an Android, or this one has an iOS, or it's on my. So, like, if I had to go to my parents, and tell them, hey, what do you think of this? It's so over their head. But if they want to get there, everybody knows how to open an account, get yourself verified, put some money, get your Bitcoin. Boop, it's easy, simple. So I think, for example, that in that case, that was one of the first things that sort of attracted me to Instacoins. And apart from Instacoins, there are other companies that are obviously doing other initiatives, not only to purchase Bitcoin, others to learn, others to, for example, create solutions on the network without needing any coding, others that are basically helping artists get all their, for example, paint work known. So there are basically different applications to blockchain. And yes, there is a financial model to support it, but the technology made it possible as well, you know? So now I am basically on a level playing field. If I was an artist, I'm on a level playing field with any other artist out there, and I'm pushing my, let's say, concept, my art, my NFTs, my digital possessions, my whatever. I'm pushing them on a level playing field to the world to see. And yes, if necessary, I can get paid for it. Why not? Yes, I can trade it. Maybe I like yours more than I like mine. But basically, that is the reality of how these solutions basically work. So they're very interesting.
Great. I would say this can be the last question, actually, because we've had an actually really good discussion. But I would like to
Please.
ask the last thing, which, again, we
Yes,
don't
of
have
course.
foresight, we do not have a crystal ball. I know before you did mention or highlight a couple of coins, but what do you
Uh huh.
think would be the most interesting, coins of the future, or rather, how do you think the space is going to evolve from now onwards? Because, of course, I mean, this podcast is
Um,
crypto today and tomorrow, so it's interesting to know, what is our opinion about the tomorrow, what's going to happen tomorrow.
Oh, I like to look at the tomorrow, but by also looking at the past, right? Because now, of course, like everybody will tell you the past is not a guarantee of the future, granted. But there are trends, and what I've seen is if we look at the last, let's say, 10 years, for example, if we take ETH, right, which is one of the longest standing cryptos out there, ETH tried to set a standard where it's basically more of a, how can you call it, more of a platform. It's an enabling platform for other solutions to join on, to basically enter the space with their solutions, start trading, etc. Whereas again, Bitcoin, very rarely are you going to find people trading Bitcoin consistently on a platform, let's say, for operation as a transactional. It would be more, it's more realistic to basically walk into a coffee shop and basically, for example, pay with something which is a derivative of it, as opposed to, let's say, the king of coin, because it holds more value. Let's never forget the guy that paid 10,000 Bitcoin to buy a pizza, right? So, so those things are basically always there. Imagine if he didn't eat that pizza, on that day. So, but anyway, like it could have happened with any other project. But
We cannot
nowadays,
fall
there
for
are so
crazy.
many of these. Yeah, like if I'm smacking myself in the face, I don't even want to think of that guy, you know. But so there are so many different projects entering that space. So there are enablers. Bitcoin, I don't believe, is an enabler for a project. It is a currency. It's a storage of value. It's basically something that people will get adoption. They want to be part of it. They want to be there. They want to be part of this new monetary, let's say, king system. When you're looking at ETH and others, they are creating a platform for basically enabling these different solutions. Now, when you look at others, you take Polygon, you take Solana, you take Venom, you take others, most of them, I'm not saying all, most of them are a branch of, for example, Ethereum, and they did some changes to it. They changed basically its contracts, etc. But they are enablers. They're opening up those type of platforms. So my opinion, and again, it's solely an opinion, it's not investment advice or whatever, but the three that I really like right now, most definitely, I think Ethereum will always remain sort of at the top because there are so many projects already on there and more are coming. And also, interestingly enough, there's the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, which is basically like say a group of professionals, a group of enterprises which consistently review and suggest models to put in there. Solana is definitely like one of the top networks right now that did a lot of ripples in the network because they opened up their meme factory. So there have been like coins being created like crazy. And yes, they're being done for money reasons, but it got adoption. People are there. They're getting used to it more. So I would say like Solana, I would expect it like to be towards the top. I think Ethereum is definitely going to stay there, and we're seeing its consistent increase very much in line with blockchain with BTC all the time. I've reviewed a few other ones, one in particular, and I have affiliation with none of them, so this is not an advertisement of sorts. But I've interestingly saw about Venom as well. I was reading about it, and I saw that they're doing some interesting projects in the UAE as well. And those are, let's say, the three that I'm watching closely right now.
All right, that's very good to know. We will also keep an eye out on them. I must say, I do keep an eye out, especially on Ethereum and also on Solana already. So those are also on my radar, so to say. But yeah, but it's also good,
Perfect.
and it's always good to keep an eye out. You know, there's various websites where we can check news, and there's various ways how we can do our own research to find out more about what's happening, what projects are getting done, and to try to educate ourselves, as you mentioned before. So if anybody, of course, will be interested in purchasing, they need to know why and what they are purchasing in, because many times it's not good to gamble. We know this. So information will always put us in a good position that we can take a decision knowing of what the risks are. Because if we do not know what these risks are, then of course
Hmm. Hmm.
we can suffer quite a lot. So yeah, so make sure that you take care of that learning and you get this information stored in your head. So of course we can apply it and to hopefully do something out of it. Eh? So yeah, Jonathan, thank you very much for joining in this podcast. It was great listening to your story. Again, I find this very interesting. I find this very fascinating. I strongly believe of how people can find ways how to shift their lives around. I mean, everybody goes through a phase in their life where maybe they've been in a career for a long time and they want to change. Crypto is one of those worlds where everybody's welcome. So don't be scared. There's always a way. Just educate yourself, learn a bit more, and it is much easier to get into these worlds. There are various ways how to gather the information. As just Jonathan mentioned before, YouTube is one of those where you're going to get all the information you want, but there are various websites related to crypto, updates, daily updates, news articles, and whatnot. So there's always some sort of way how we can gather the information online. So yeah, so that was it for today. So this is going to be the end of episode 2. Let's just, of course, remind you that if you'd like to subscribe to our channel, that would be really great. We're, of course, working already on getting episode 3 done, where we're going to have another guest. And of course, we will keep adapting as we have always been doing, from episode to episode 1 to episode 2. I hope that you liked what we are creating so far. So we want to keep this as much as possible as an educational, but also finding different ways of how people interpret and gather their information of their life towards the crypto world, of course, so we can apply it into our own futures. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.